you, Dr. Aishwarya, and thank you, Dr. Prashant, for initiating this session. And first of all, let me thank the organizers of the 4th Global Ayurveda Festival 2021 for inviting me to chair this session. And I also welcome the four prominent speakers of today's session, that Dr. Tanuja Nesri, the Director All India Institute of Ayurveda, Dr. Jayan Damodran, Dr. Harendra Nair, Dr. Parveen Kalathinkal, and my co-chair, Dr. Raghunathan Nair. So pranam to all of you, and welcome to this session. Friends, the COVID, when this term COVID, I came to know about this term COVID-19 or COVID, I thought that how it is different from other viral infections or the corona infections, how it is different, and what kind of opportunities it has provided to the country, particularly in India. So I spelt it like this, this term COVID, creating opportunities for virtual innovation and development. I think Ayurveda, for unfolding the potential of Ayurveda, this COVID situation has provided a lot of platform, a lot of potential to unfold the potential of Ayurveda. If you see right in the beginning, I still remember that I think the first 2-3 cases of this COVID-19, these were reported from Kerala. Some students, they came from Wuhan, China, and then they were reported. I think it was on the 8th or 9th January 2020. So when these cases were reported, and then within a few weeks, I think hardly within 2 or 3 weeks, the Govt of India, the Ministry of AYUSH, took many decisions, and the intervention, if you see the intervention, because the topic which is going to be discussed in this session, that is COVID-19 interventions in India. Now, friends, India has a very peculiar situation in the world. If you see the population of the India, it contributes 11% of the world population. India contributes 11% of the world population, but if you see the disease burden in India, it is 21% of the global disease burden. India has a triple disease burden. The communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, means what we call as lifestyle diseases, and then this climate change induced diseases, or the traumatic diseases or traumatic disorders. So the means, in spite of having so many systems which are officially recognized, like the conventional system of medicine, which we call as the modern medical system. We have Ayurveda in our country. We have Unani system of medicine, Siddha system of medicines, yoga and naturopathy, and then recently this Soaripa is also official recognized system, and then this homeopathy. So all these systems, 7 systems other than the conventional system of medicine, so many systems are there. But even then, the disease burden in our country is huge. But during this COVID-19 situation, I think India has set an example. That, okay, how to combat this kind of situation, this kind of a pandemic or the epidemic situation across the country. And I think that is an example for the whole world. And why it has happened. If you see the interventions from Govt of India, all kinds of interventions, those have been promoted, those have been strengthened, and those have been inculcated across the country, and to promote the AYUSH systems of medicine. And if you see the ecosystem which has been developed in the last 1 year, more than 1 year, if you see, there are political interventions, there is a strong policy support from the government. The political commitment is there to support the AYUSH systems of medicines, and then there is executive interventions or the administrative interventions were there. The state, the central secretaries, the state secretaries, the directors, all they took interest for the cause of promoting AYUSH in combating or in the prophylaxis against the COVID, or in the management of COVID cases, or providing AYUSH services to the masses for the management of COVID-19. So the executive interventions were there, the administrative interventions there, and more so, even the financial interventions, means a lot of financial support was given from the center as well as by the state governments for promoting the cause of AYUSH, as well as for strengthening or for providing more and more AYUSH services to the patients, those who are suffering from COVID-19, or for the prevention or the preventive health care, or for the prophylactic interventions, or even for the curative and the clinical interventions. And apart from that, the intervention was there for capacity building in the country. I think if you see right in the beginning, I think in the month of March or April, the lot of training and capacity building programs, CME programs, were conducted for the AYUSH workforce, for the AYUSH practitioners, for the AYUSH paramedical workers, or even for the students, that they can get trained that how to manage this situation. Even the COVID warriors, AYUSH COVID warriors, they were also created, and they were put into the field. And apart from this intervention, means the capacity building and this professional training to the AYUSH workforce, the major initiative by the Government of India, that was R&D interventions. So if you see the R&D interventions for the COVID-19, I think all of you know that more than 60 clinical trials, AYUSH related clinical trials, those are registered in the CTRI, Central Clinical Trial Registry of India, which is maintained by ICMR. So that is an important intervention, supported by due support, policy support from Government of India. And for these R&D interventions, for promoting R&D interventions, that time I was in the Ministry of AYUSH, and Ministry of AYUSH issued a notification that how these clinical trials means could be implemented, could be initiated. Because if you see the Drugs and Cosmetic Act and the Drugs and Cosmetic rules, there are no clear provisions that whether any regulatory permission is required for conducting clinical trials on AYUSH interventions, whether it is a drug or non-pharmacological intervention. So it was not there. So a notification was issued by the government, the Gazette notification, and through that notification, it was only that, okay, you get the IEC clearance, means the investigators or the researchers, they can get the IEC clearance from the concerned hospital or from the concerned institute where you intend to conduct the clinical trial, and then get the trial registered in the CTRI. And after that, following the good clinical practice guidelines, you can conduct the clinical studies, and whatever data is generated, whatever outcomes or the results are there, those results should be reported to the central government. And for the purpose of making claims on the labels, or for the purpose of purposing and repurposing of the AYUSH medicines, again a clear directive was given to the state governments that and the outcomes or the data of these clinical trials should be submitted to the central government, and the central government set up a committee, a high power committee headed by a chairman of a retired professor, from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, that committee will examine those claims, those documents, that data, and on the basis of that, then the claim will be verified, and then the state authorities, they will be allowed to issue means approval for the approval or the licensing grant of license for the manufacturing of those medicines. So these R&D interventions, this was an important step taken by the government. And apart from this R&D intervention in this way, to promote the R&D intervention, the government set up a task force, high-power task force headed by Professor Bhushan Patwardhan. And in that task force, they took a very strong initiative, and they recommended that clinical studies, clinical trials, properly conducted clinical trials need to be undertaken. And if you see the four major the formulations or the products on which the clinical trials were done, like ashwagandha, guduchi, and pipali, then in some of the institutions, the role of AYUSH 64, this was also evaluated. Then this Chavanprash for the prevention, for the prophylactic purpose, and then the Yashti Madhu. So the four formulations, I think multi-centric clinical trials, they have been conducted, and some of the trials, they are underway, and the results are likely to be made out. I think the data is being analyzed, and these studies will be published. So this kind of R&D interventions were taken up by the government, by the different institutions. Even in the Ministry of AYUSH, there is one scheme, extramural research scheme, through which the projects, the clinical studies or the research projects on AYUSH interventions, those are supported. So in that scheme also, a provision was made that if anybody, any researcher or any investigator is interested to take up a study on COVID, so that will also be supported. So since I was dealing with this scheme, so I know that more than 356 proposals from across the country came to the ministry. We got them examined. When a technical examination, technical screening of those proposals were done, and I think more than 50 such project proposals, they were supported, and the grant was given to these institutions. So this is also one of the major intervention by the government, by the concerned Ministry of AYUSH. And then the most important thing which has happened during this COVID-19 outbreak, particularly for facilitating the industry, Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, and homeopathy drug industry, for promoting the trade of AYUSH medicines, those medicines which are going to be used or which have been used in the management of COVID-19. So for that, many regulatory steps were taken. The advisories were issued to the state government, to the state authorities, advisories, directives, and apart from that, if you see the first advisory and the directive which was issued, that was on 1st April. And why that advisory was issued, that if you remember, that on 28th March, when the Honorable Prime Minister addressed the nation, and he referred to, during his address to the nation, he referred to that the misleading claims of AYUSH should not be there. Misleading claims of AYUSH remedies or the AYUSH medicine should not be there. Exaggerated claims have to be prevented, to be avoided. So on 1st April, the Ministry of AYUSH, from the Drug Control Cell, the directive was issued to all the state licensing authorities, to the drug controllers, as well as to the manufacturers, that what kind of advertisement related to COVID-19 one cannot make. So and a due check was kept on the misleading advertisement, and the pharmacovigilance centers across the country, even the Advertising Standards Council of India, that was also given the direction that all misleading advertisements related to COVID, they should be reported. And regulatory action should be taken against such advertisements. So and daily we used to get around 10 to 15 misleading claims or the misleading advertisement, and even the advertisements or the statements or the news items appearing in the print media or in the electronic media or in the social media. So that was checked, that was analyzed, and the action was taken immediately on that very day. Some of the companies, they made very tall claims, and within 2 or 3 hours, of receiving the notice about that product or that claim or that advertisement, action has been taken by the government. So means so serious was the efforts from the government side, from the government institutions, from the government authorities, that nothing wrong should be promoted, nothing wrong could be propagated about AYUSH for COVID-19. So this thing. So on the whole, I think the Government of India and the AYUSH sector has set an example that how this COVID-19, like a threatening disease, which has affected the whole globe. And as I told you that in spite of having 21% of the disease burden of contributing to the global disease burden, India, means the huge population is here. More than 130 crore people are there in our country. But if you see the recovery of the patients, those who suffered from COVID-19, and the incidence, I think that has been excellently and very meticulously that has been checked. And in comparison to the developed world, like US, the number of COVID cases, that is much more, but we have contained the spread of COVID-19, and even post-COVID, this rehabilitation or the restoration, for that also integrated approaches have been adopted. And if you see the guidelines which were issued by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare for the post COVID-19 cases, the use of Ayurveda intervention, Ayurveda remedies, and the yoga interventions. So all those things means, I think this is the prime opportunity was provided to the AYUSH sector to grow and to improve the trade, as well as to enhance the export of AYUSH products. To my information, I think the trade of AYUSH products, particularly the Ayurveda products, some of the commonly recommended Ayurveda remedies like Chavanprash, AYUSH 64, then the Shanshamani Vati, Guruchi, Ghanmati, Amritotar Kshay. I think the trade has enhanced by 44% in the last 1 year. Even the government company like this IMPCL, Indian Medicine Pharmaceutical Corporation Limited, which is under the Ministry of AYUSH, they have crossed their turnover, annual turnover has crossed more than 120 crores. They never touched 100 crores, but this time it is more than 140 crores or so. So the private sector, the government institution, the public sector undertakings, the practitioners, the NGOs, and the professional bodies, I think they plunged into controlling the menace of this COVID-19, and I think these are the best practices which have been adopted by the government, by the stakeholders, by the sector, so that we could achieve this success in controlling this COVID-19 situation.